This video will show you how to find rational zeros at the 3.0 level. If you haven't watched the 2.0 video, please do that before watching this one. A couple of days ago, we talked about how to find other zeros and how to factor completely if you're given a zero or given a factor of a polynomial using synthetic division. In the 2.0 video, I showed you how to find all rational zeros. We're going to use a combination of these two lessons to help us find rational zeros of polynomials that we just don't know a lot about. Okay, in this example, we're just told to find the zeros. We don't know anything about this polynomial. We don't know any of its any of its zeros. We don't know any of its factors. But with using the rational zero theorem, we can find its rational zeros. And that's actually the first step in finding all real zeros of a polynomial that you don't know much about. So step 1, list all possible zeros. Okay, so to do this, we're going to use that P over Q theorem that we learned about in the 2.0 video. So if you remember, P stands for the factors of the constant term, so this is 20. So my factors of 20 would be plus or minus 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. And my factors of my leading coefficient stand for Q. So leading coefficient is 1. Factors of 1 are just 1. So dividing by 1 is not going to change any of those possible rational zeros. So our rational zeros are just plus or minus 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20, just like the top row of that P over Q. So there's our possible zeros. Okay, so step 2 is we're going to find zeros that work. And to do that, we're going to use synthetic division. So if you remember the other day when we talked about when we're given a zero, we talked about how if it's a zero of a polynomial, then the remainder will be 0. So, or if it's a solution or if it's a factor, then the remainder will be 0. So in order to do this, we are just going to check some of these possible zeros to see which ones will work. So I'm just going to start with 1. So I'm going to plug in 1, and then I'm going to put down my coefficients. And I'm going to go ahead and do the synthetic division. And I can see that that's not going to work. So I'm going to go to negative 1. And then here quickly we found 1 with a remainder of 0, which means that negative 1 is a zero of the polynomial, and x plus 1 is a factor. So one of our zeros is negative 1. So I'm just going to put that down here in the corner so I don't forget. My zeros are negative 1, and I'm looking for 2 more possible real zeros because my power is 3, which means I could have 3 real zeros. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to write what's left after I divide that off. So if I divide by x plus 1, I end up with this quadratic. So that's my third step, is to factor the remaining trinomial. And in this case, the remaining trinomial is x squared minus 9x plus 20. Now, sometimes we won't be able to factor this, so we might have to use other things that we learned about in the last unit to solve this quadratic. But always check factoring first. So I factor, I have x and x, and then the two numbers that multiply together to give me 20 and add together to give me negative 9 are negative 5 and negative 4. And that gives me zeros of 5 and 4. So my 3 real zeros of this polynomial are negative 1, 5, and 4. And in case you didn't follow where I got that, remember once you factor that quadratic, to find the zeros, you just set those factors equal to 0 and solve. So if x minus 5 equals 0, we would add 5 to both sides, and that's where that x equals 5 comes from. And if x minus 4 equals 0, we'd add 4 to both sides, and that's where the x equals 4 comes from. So that's the gist of how to find all real zeros of a polynomial using the rational root theorem. Thank you.